What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 12 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. A big shout out to the new listeners following us from the country of Hungary. That brings the reach of these podcasts to 11 countries on 5 continents. Please share with your neighbors near and far, wherever in the world they are. Today's episode is part 1 of a 2-part interview with a good friend Deon from Durban, South Africa. Sit back and enjoy as he shares about how memories of his time in addiction keep trying to mess with him in his recovery. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 8 and verse 12, God chooses to remember our sins no more. So, Deon, how can you choose to remember your past wrongs no more?
David, for me, it's been a rough road for many years while I was still in addiction. I was introduced to Jesus, but didn't believe in God's word and promises of the various scriptures. I had a wonderful counselor who took the time to teach me and make me understand the Bible and the life God has for us, with all the promises from the scriptures of the Bible as well. The one thing he always discussed with me was forgiveness and how we as addicts never we as addicts need to forgive ourselves to move forward in life. The only way I could choose to remember my past wrongs no more was to fully forgive myself for everything that I've done in the past. The Bible verse states, "For I will be merciful to the unrighteous, to their unrighteousness and their sins, and their lawless deeds I will remember no more." So God clearly states He forgives us. So we need to learn how to forgive ourselves. That's been the key element for me to actually move past that stage.
Yeah, what memories did you struggle with? Well, like what kept you from forgiving yourself sooner?
Um, I think the strong memories that being homeless and living on the streets, losing everything 3 times in my life, death, almost dying numerous occasions because of direct causes by drugs and alcohol, the heartache, the pain I caused all the family members, and also the health issues I went through in my past. So those were the stuff that I've been dealing with a lot.
Mm. Yeah, those are tough ones because it's, you go from what is your normal lifestyle that you grew up with, and as soon as you throw homelessness in there and then the craziness of addiction, it's
Yeah.
trying to figure out your new normal, and those things leave scars on us. Those almost dying and the whole hustle of addiction. So what memories did you struggle with forgetting that just seemed to cling on, and you had to almost just say, I'm choosing to forget this?
For me, I'll say my early childhood. I grew up in an abusive household. Um, I also was given up for adoption to an abusive family, and then I developed a stubborn and also very mentally unstable personality that I took forward in my life, which made me become a pathological liar, a thief, and also I was a fully blown atheist for the majority part of my life. So those are the things that I personally choose to forget to try and keep a stable kind of mindset.
Yeah, those are definitely hard ones. And as we work in A to D, we're often or all the time focusing on those scars, and a lot of them go back to childhood. And
Hmm.
author Lois Lowry in the book The Giver wrote, the worst part of holding the memories is not the pain, it's the loneliness of it. Memories need to be shared. Can you fill us in about your loneliness of your childhood with the abuse and the going from home to home?
For me, my memory was as young as 10, when I was 10 years old. I actually found out I was adopted. My adoptive parents were alcoholics and abusive. Um, so I tried approaching God and questioned God to why this was happening to me. Um, and at that time, going through the whole abusiveness and um, going from pillar to post, at that time, there was AA and other recovery groups that I went to try and get assistance for my family, but I failed. And then when I went to family members, I failed. I went to the child welfare and I failed. So I was really battling as a child. And at a very early age, at 10 years old, I took into a belief that there was no such thing as God, because I questioned God why this was happening to me. How come? And I was not getting any answers. Um, I used to also sit and question, why did my biological parents give me up for adoption? Do they realize that they put me into a hell of a household with abusive adoptive parents? And yeah, questions were raised. What have I done to deserve such a life? All those memories still creep up till today, and yeah, those are a bit of the loneliness memories that take me to a point of a loneliness kind of persona. Yeah, sometimes it gets difficult to deal with, but yeah.
Yeah, and those are ones that I run into a lot. And we can grow up and only have the sense of the depth of abandonment mixed in all that. You mentioned the why me, what have I done? But you also mentioned, why did my birth parents give me up? Why did my birth mom give me up? And it can almost be, that thought of, was there something wrong with me even from the womb that I got abandoned?
Yes. Yeah, and you take it into your adult life. You grow up with this resentment already, like you were alone in this world. You were kicked to the curb by your biological parents, and your adoptive parents are abusive, and they've also kicking you to the curb. And then you start questioning, what is your existence in this earth? What? And then and I used to cry out to God, and then I used to sit and cry and say, nothing's happening. My life was, as a teenager, my life was out of control. It was unmanageable from a point of from a parent's side, and also seeing that me as a teenager, I was spiraling into doom and starting to get involved in already into alcoholism and drugs, and looking for ways out to restore some hope and happiness into my life.
Almost like you were looking for a sense of belonging, like, where do I fit in, where can I be accepted?
Correct.
Yeah.
And growing up in the areas, and the sad thing is, in our community, I wasn't the only one that was going through something on that note. There were other kids also in abusive households, and we all got together, and then we kind of clicked and started experimenting and living our own life, because we knew we could depend on each other no matter what. If I didn't have a place to stay, I knew I could go and stay at a friend's house. Or if they needed a place to stay, I used to sneak them in and maybe help them to sleep in one of our cars. And so we looked out for each other in the younger days. And then we also developed the bad habits of alcoholism and drugs, because when we took those things, it made us feel better. It took the pain away, so to speak.
Yeah, I often say that, the alcohol and drugs can become our comforter really quick, and we don't realize at the time that it's a counterfeit comforter. It's just soothing the pain for an evening or giving us an escape for an evening, but the consequences come later.
Yeah, correct. You grow up and you live those consequences, and it this brings on more and more heartache and more pain.
Yes, yeah. Did you get caught up in the party scene as a teenager, and where were you in Durban growing up?
I grew up in Durban, and when I finished school, grade 12, I was already involved in fully blown drug addiction and alcoholism, and things kind of spiraled out because of the the crowd that I joined. We were always getting into trouble with the law and also with the wrong people. So I needed to get out of this place, and then I went up to Johannesburg, and yeah, I started my life there from the age of about I'd say about 20 years old, and the party life from a teenage year, I always joined guys elder than me who had the use of cars and stuff like that. So we used to go out every weekend, and money was no issue because most of them were already working, so they could purchase the alcohol and drugs, and I was with them, so I consumed. We always partied. We loved the music, and we were also into the experimental drug phase. So yeah, we partied hard. We lived because we just lived for the day, so to speak. Because when it came to the weekend, you disappeared, and you only sometimes only came back on a Sunday afternoon.
So you were a weekend warrior as a teenager and a young adult.
Yes, yes, yes.
And when you decided you've had enough and you really seriously began to look for help, um, can you talk about things that triggered you then, like a smell or a song on the radio or a movie? You know, those things that create flashbacks um, as you turn from a weekend warrior to one who really began to battle against his addiction and try to get sobriety.
Over the past 6 years, while of my recovery, the memories do come back. I mean, while you're driving, if you listen to a certain song, because music played a big role in my addiction. So triggers do come back, and you do feel very tempted. You actually zone back into that point of where you actually left off the last time. You actually get the feeling. Um, so music, and also with regards to um, I think work-wise, as I'm in sales. So whenever there's good sales and good commissions, I always used to celebrate by giving myself a pat on the back with a binge.
Hmm.
So whenever there's something good in my life, that caused me to relapse. Also with music, certain music kicked in, and the most common thing with most of the guys, I think, was sadness. When you sit and your mind's clouded and you're sad and you don't know how to move forward and how to deal with the situation, those also take you back to your last moments of where you left off, and can be disastrous and cause relapse. I mean, those were my personal kind of points.
Yeah, I think the thing you said about your commission days, you're getting a big sale and getting a big commission, just having that money in your hand, that money in your pocket, because you were no longer with your childhood friends, your teenage friends who would buy for you, and you could become the guy buying for others as well as yourself.
Correct.
Yeah.
And with my addiction, I so-called became the life of the party. I didn't depend on others. Um, I was a very sociable alcoholic and very sociable drug addict. So wherever I went, I made sure I took enough for myself and for the person that's going to be there. So I always I always thought of the next person, irrespective whether they wanted it or not, because I knew if they turned it down, yeah, there's going to be more for me. So wherever I went, I made sure my car had enough drugs, enough um, alcohol, and just to go there. Because I went with the intention to say, well, I'm going to party and I'm going to party properly and enjoy myself because I deserve it. And now I've got the money to actually live that life. So called, it's called like the high life.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. Please follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Share the podcast link with 2 or 3 people this week. Keep sending your feedback, and if you would like to be part of a weekly Zoom meeting on addiction, contact me by email at davidfroma2d@gmail.com or by Instagram at davidfroma2d. Tune in when part 2 of the interview with Deon drops on Monday wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay strong and stay safe.